Good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning. I am just now waking up and thought I would turn on my video as normal for this morning. Last night I had a crazy dream that at the age that I am now, which is 45 years old, that I went back to college. So weird. And going back to college meant having a new best friend and a guy in my life. Weird dreams. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about something that I regret. There are many things that I regret that I did post-divorce, and I thought I might talk about those things really quick. I was going to sleep last night, and I was keep thinking of all these things that I was like, man, I wish I would have never done that. And so I wanted to share with you in hopes that maybe you guys won't make the same mistakes as I have. So, the first one is, I just want to start off and say that when you're going through a divorce, you say a lot of things and you do a lot of things that you will regret later. The first thing that I really, really, truly regret is trying to save my marriage. When my husband filed for divorce, it was unexpected. It was like a light switch went off, and he said, I made this decision, and he stopped talking to me. He won't talk to me even to this day. And so it was like I was hit by a mad truck. It was so unexpected. Like, I didn't even know he was thinking like this. I thought everything was fine in our marriage. His sister had moved in. I asked her to leave. I asked him to have her leave, and he chose her over me. And it was just like what happened? It was like the man that I was married to for 9 years had completely changed overnight. And so I was like a cat scraping against the tree, trying to crawl up to the tree to save my marriage. He refused counseling. He refused talking to the pastor at the church we attended to. He told me he made up his mind. His mind is final, and decision has been made. And he already filed. He didn't even want to talk to me about it. And I was just like in shock. I really was in shock. Because this is not the man I married, and it wasn't the man I loved. And that brings me to the next thing. Number 2 would be I expected his faith to prevent him from filing for divorce. I thought we were equally yoked. As Christians, we know that the Bible says God hates divorce and he doesn't want it. And I know that I never gave my husband a reason for the filing of the divorce in the first place. And it took many, many months for me to get to a point of acceptance that my husband is no longer my husband. Just his behavior is completely different. It was his old self. It was the man he was before we were married. And so, because of that, I was so confused. I was so confused. I had no idea what was happening. Here I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years, and I had no idea what was going on in my husband's head. I was clueless about what was going on, and it took many, many months for me to accept it. And in that process of trying to save my marriage, I wrote him lots of letters because he wouldn't talk to me. He pretty much kicked me downstairs into the basement. He put locks on his doors. He wouldn't talk to me. All I knew is he filed for divorce. And he was going to live in the house with his sister, and that's all I knew. I knew nothing about what was going on. Even at that point, I didn't even receive my divorce papers. And so I had no idea what he was doing, except for he was being so hateful. That's all I knew. It was a different man that I had lived with for 9 years. And even now, it's so hard for me to accept because I don't know this man. I don't know him at all. And I don't love him. And to have that man switch like this is, I was in shock. I was in total shock. And I was broken. And it hurt. It hurt so bad. And not only did it hurt me because I loved him, it hurt me because he was hurting my children. And I couldn't believe what he was doing, kicking us out of the house and just destroying my kids' lives in a second, in a decision. And it was all my kids. It wasn't just our son that we had together. It was the kids, even previous marriages that I had. Everything was taken away. And they were devastated. And they were mad. They didn't have the heartbreak like I did. The kids weren't heartbroken. They knew that this was going to happen. And they warned me for years. They never liked him as a stepdad. And so, to me, I was in shock. I was depressed. I was heartbroken. And to my kids, they were just devastated. And they were angry, very angry. So that brings me to the third thing. I wish I would have never wrote those letters trying to save my marriage, because I wrote them out of shock, and I was begging almost for him to love me. And he never loved me. Not even from the day we were married did he ever love me. And I know that I was using my Christian faith, my religion, to make excuses like, why would he do this if he's calling himself a Christian? And I was just in shock. And I don't know how else to explain it, except for I almost begged him in these letters. I told him how much I loved him and I want him back. And I wish I would have never wrote those letters, because that wasn't my true feelings. I don't want this man back. I don't want the person he's become. He has been, like I said, to this day, still not talking to me. He won't co-parent with me regarding our child. He has been very hateful. He's moved on into a new relationship, and it's like a whole nother man. And it's taken me almost a year and a half to get over this. Um, as you can tell, I'm still heartbroken. And I cry because I miss my husband. But I have come to an understanding that it is that we are unequally yoked, and the understanding that it is um, lawlessness that is happening among families and broken marriages right now. And the courts are overfilled with people just being hateful and lovers of themselves and hateful to that other person. And, you know, it's a battle. It's a battle of the soul, is what it is. There's not one act of kindness in this man anymore towards me as the mother of his child, and everybody can see it. Everybody. Another thing I wish I would have never done is ask for counseling. During our marriage, he would ask me for counseling, and I never went because I didn't think it was that serious. Um, and now that we're divorced, I know he thought about this for a very, very long time. It wasn't a decision that he made overnight like that. This is something that in his head, he really thought that we had a horrible, horrible marriage, and we didn't. We had a very good marriage and a very good relationship. We did discipleship together and a lot of Bible studies together. We were a family. We did a lot of going and doing things together. I did a lot of things for his extended family. And him and my dad were like really good friends. My dad loved him. And, you know, it was something that was just put us all in shock, really, on the change and the behavior that just changed so fast. And, you know, I keep thinking that counseling may have worked and helped, but because we are so separate in our belief system, and because we are so separate in our um, minds, I something happened, and there was just like a rip of our marriage. It was like the veil had been torn. There is no sewing it up. There is no counseling that would save our marriage. And it was actually through counseling in the church that my husband attends to with his family. Um, it is counseling that I have continued to go through with a lady at the church that she says, there's no fixing this. This is something he would have to want to fix, and he doesn't. And I have had to, accept that. And for me to heal and for me to move on in the grieving process. Um, Another thing post divorce I wish I would have never done is told him that I was going through that counseling. Because he goes to church, he goes to Bible study, he acts like it was all me, which of course he does, and I accept that. That's fine. But the people that we were friends with at the church, they all know the truth, and so I'm not too worried about what he tells them. They tell me they're still trying to work on him. Um, I've spoken to the pastor of the church, and they have agreed that it is best for me to not come back to that church any longer because um, it's causing a division in the body of Christ, and that is something that I do not want to do because his family goes to that church, and they have told me that it's wrong what he's done and the decision he's made. There's nothing I can do about it, and that because that his family goes there and they went there before I did. Me and the kids going there is something that uh, they kind of really don't want happening because it's going to cause a division with the ex-in-laws and the family for attending that church. So I get it. I know exactly what they're talking about, and so it's something that I've agreed to do is stay away from that church. I do attend a care group still with that church, and I am still watching the videos online of the sermons, and I have attended another church since, and I still talk to all my friends at that church, and they are all very shocked. And they're very supportive of me and my kids. As a matter of fact, I've received a lot of the things that I have now and the things that were taken away from me in my marriage, with my divorce. My church family is there to support me. My husband has filed a modification for our divorce settlement agreement, and those support system of that church and that body of Christ has already supported me in fighting for this modification and against the modification. And documentation has already been sent. So I am so thankful for my friends and my church family who are in agreement with me on just what is going on. Everybody is just so shocked. What's another thing that I can think of that I wish I wouldn't have done post divorce? Like I said, the emails, the telling him every step that I was making. The reason why I was writing letters and begging for our marriage to be saved is because I truly loved my husband. That is something else I wish I would have never ever told him, is how much I loved him in those letters. Um, I was begging him, like I said. It was like I was trying to come up with, like, why are you doing this? And I love you so much. And do you know that you're destroying the kids' lives? And I wish I would have never done any of that because it didn't matter. It never mattered how much I loved him. It didn't matter how heartbroken I was. It didn't matter that I was ready to grow old with this man and take care of him when he was ill and dying. And it didn't matter that my children loved him, and it didn't matter that they looked up to him. It didn't matter that we were a Christian family. It didn't matter that I look back and my family loved him and my friends loved him, and it didn't matter because we were never good enough. We were never good enough. Um, I could tell you that from day one of our marriage, um, I was not good enough. I wasn't. Um, And that has been hard to accept. Another thing I wrote in those letters was the red flags. I kept seeing red flags post-divorce of, why did I not see this coming? I knew this was going to happen. Even when I first met my husband, I didn't even like him. It wasn't until God told me to marry him that I decided to marry him. And him knowing that, I wish I would have never told him that God told me to marry him. And I wish I would have listened to my first instinct. Because I look back and now I regret marrying him. I look back and I regret the 9 years of marriage that we had. Every single moment of it. I regret it. Because of my children. It's not because of me, but it's because of how bad it hurt my kids. Post-divorce, I regret telling my husband that that I expect him to follow our settlement agreement. And that I was expecting him to be like my other ex-husbands. My other ex-husbands and I communicate back and forth regarding our child. We always have our agreement that we fall back on when needed. Other than that, if it's, hey, can you pick him up for football? Yeah. Are you off work? Yeah. Can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah. We talk openly back and forth. It doesn't matter what the papers say. If my ex-husband wants to take my son to Branson, he just says, hey, can I take him to Branson? I'm like, okay. And I said, hey, can I have him for a family reunion? Sure. The papers are always to fall back on as far as schedule and all that, but they follow the agreement. Otherwise, you give me something, I give you something. That's how that works. And it's open communication. And now that my son is 14, he's old enough to have a say in what kind of life he wants and all that. So, it's one of those things where I expected this man who filed divorce without even discussing it with me to have this settlement agreement because he didn't want to go to trial. I was ready to go to a trial in our divorce, and the attorneys kept pushing for settlement agreement, and I settled. And then after we settled to an agreement, I settled with this agreement thinking this is what's in my son's best interest. And it was 50-50. Everything. 50-50. That's what I wanted. Except for I wanted 50-50 on selling the house, 50-50 on our property, 50-50 on selling everything. And it didn't end up being that way. He got the house. I got this crappy apartment 2 streets over. He gets educational decisions. He won't even talk to me about it. He takes him to the doctor, doesn't talk to me about it. There is no co-parenting going on. There's no communication. The only person he will talk to is his attorney after divorce and after our agreement. And he refuses to mediate with me. He refuses to go out to coffee with me and talk to me about our child like me and my other ex-husbands will do. I had other ex-husbands come to the house before. We've talked openly in the living room. I mean, it's okay. This one won't do it. So post-divorce, it's that lack of communication and that lack of compassion and kindness, whether he wants a divorce or not. And I regret trying to make it work with him. I regret trying to communicate regarding our son. From here on out, I won't be communicating with him regarding our son any longer because everything I say by text or email, he is now using against me. And that's okay too. I mean, I can say why I say the things I say. I have documentation backing it up. I haven't done anything to break our settlement agreement. So I have no concerns over this motion that he's filing. And like I said before, I think a trial is what we needed in the first place. And I'm prepared to do that if that's what we need to do. And like I've said in my other videos, I'm divorced now. I don't have to um, follow any other rule other than that settlement agreement. I do not have to talk to his attorney anymore. And I have asked for mediation to talk to him, and he has continued to refuse. I have actually contacted mediators, 3 different mediators, and none of them will mediate with us without him voluntarily meet with us and want to voluntarily talk and work things out. And they will not meet with his attorney. They won't do it. So they are backing me up also. And I've asked for all of our communication to go through the court app. If you guys are not using the court app, I suggest that you use the court app. He refuses to set that up for us. So that is another thing that I have requested several times, and he won't do. And that's because he wants to use what I say against me. And he's the one that's not communicating. And so, yeah, it's things that I regret is telling him step by step what I'm doing, and that is coming to a stop. I think I did that because I was still trying to get him to stop the divorce, to um, come back to us, and it wasn't probably until probably 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, you guys. It's taken me after him filing this motion to modify, for me to wash my hands of this man. And this is something that is going to be a constant battle between the two of us, because I am always going to fight for my son and what is in the best interest of my son. And the settlement agreement that we had is what is in my son's best interest. And I'm not changing that. And I will fight for what's right for my child. And um, so when it comes down to this tiff for taff type behavior post divorce, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lower myself to fighting words anymore. There's no more begging. There's no more love for this man. I think in my old videos I kept saying to you guys that I love him. I love him. God's told me to love him, and God has told me to love him within my own heart. Yes, that has not changed. I am still married to my husband. I have not been okayed by God to move on. If God brings that man into my life and I move on, then yes, I will. But as far as being a Christian and staying in my marriage with God, that is something that I am going to continue to do. And being in my marriage to my ex-husband, I did not walk away from the marriage. It was him that did that. And so God has given me a peace in my heart to know that I have done everything correctly when it comes to loving my ex-husband, and that this is not my battle. He has clearly told me that this is a spiritual battle that's going on. There's nothing I can do but sit back, relax, watch God work, um, and give it to God. So that's where I'm at. Post divorce is just letting God be in control of everything. I am going to fight for what is right and what is in my son's best interest. Communication is number one now regarding our child, and following the court order that we have in place. If at all he would go to a trial and he would win anything more taken away from me, I will follow that order because that is what God has allowed happen. It's not in my son's best interest. I could fight until I'm blue in the face about how I feel like my husband doesn't care about what is in my son's best interest. But, ultimately it's going to affect my child. And ultimately, my children, all three of them, are still going to reap the decision that he has made and the effects it has on each one of them separately. And that's something that I have also had to learn to accept. It's not about me anymore. He never loved me, and it's not about uh, how it's affecting me because I'm just fine. It's the children that are going to be hurting from here on out. And once that settlement agreement was made between us, stating that it was in our son's best interest, that my attorney, his attorney, me, and my ex-husband all agree that it's in my son's best interest, then, whether he follows that order or not is going to be up to him. And so I am very grateful for the divorce. I'm grateful that my husband has filed and he has released me from that bondage of a marriage being in where he never loved me. And so I am very thankful for that. And thankful that now I can move on with my life. My children have kind of moved on with their life. My son has adapted very well to the schedule that we have and the settlement agreement we have. He agrees it's in our best interest, and my child doesn't want anything to change. He loves what we're doing. He wishes we would talk and that we would listen to our child. He has stated several times what he wants, and I am always encouraging him to be honest with me, and I will try to work it out so he is happy. And that's the main thing that I want to focus on now is my son's happiness. And I'm working. I'm working really hard to get us into a home and to get those things that were taken away during the divorce and give them back to my children. And that is my number one goal as a mother now. And so, yeah, there are many, many things that I regret post divorce. And um, the um, the point of the matter is, if I would have known that all this was going to take place, my husband was going to be like this, um, I don't know if I would have ever married him. But I don't regret trying. And I don't regret loving this man. I don't regret giving him a chance. Um, and I don't regret having my child. And I don't regret um, the 9 years of being a mother. I am looking forward to the many years I'm still going to be a mother to my children. And I'm very thankful that at least I can keep my kids together for most of the time. Um, I have given more than I wanted to originally, and that is just to make it easier on my ex-husband. So I do regret trying so hard to love this man, and I do not regret standing firm in my faith and what I believe and what Jesus says about marriage and divorce. And I do not regret my family, having my family, so, and my boys. And I want to encourage you, if you're going through a divorce, that there are going to be things that you say, there's going to be things that you do that you will regret. And it's okay. It's okay to regret some of the things that you do and say. Um, and it may be a battle, it may be a fight to prove the things that you say or do. And be prepared for that battle. Put on the full armor of God, because you're going to need it. God is going to be leading me in this battle. And, I'm going to be putting all my faith in Him. As I've said before, He's my husband now. And so He's going to protect us. And He's going to show and shower His love for us, upon us. And so I just want to I just hope that this is an encouragement to you guys out there, that if you're going through this, it's okay to make the mistakes. It's okay. But God's got you in the palm of His hand, and everything's going to turn out okay. So that is something that I just went to bed last night, and I just kept thinking, man, all these things I wish I would have said or wish I would have done differently, and wanted to share some of those with you and just make it a personal video from me to you. And I pray that you have a blessed day, and I hope this encourages you. Don't make the same mistakes I did. So look up divorce care. Go through the divorce care. It will show you all the grieving process. And I encourage you guys to even watch the videos on YouTube if you don't want to join a class. It really has helped me through the grieving process. And I'm not the only one out there who makes mistakes post-divorce. Trust me, everybody will make mistakes post-divorce. So I want to encourage you guys for today. God bless. Bye.